I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different, and every breakup is different. Work with me, and you'll get professional help on your situation. Just click on the link in the description below, or go to my website, askcraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be talking about don't rush into relationships.
Now, don't we sound like the old fuddy-duddies? Don't we sound like your mother and your grandmother? Don't rush into anything.
And it's important that you really consider why you shouldn't rush into a relationship.
Yes, and I'm going to give you a very good reason why.
Let me start with one.
Okay.
Anytime you date somebody or you fall in love, you're risking heartbreak. So you want to know who you are getting into a relationship with. Just because you're attracted to somebody or they make you feel good does not mean they're going to be a good partner for the long term. And if they're the one that ends that relationship, and even if you do, you're going to hurt. And it's going to cause you a lot of pain, and you're going to go through a lot of difficult times.
Right.
So you really want to investigate thoroughly who you're dating.
Who you're dating, absolutely.
And Margaret's going to get into some really deep stuff.
Yeah. Is it really deep stuff?
I think so.
Well, I advise people, and I know I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, do not marry, say I do, I will, or even I might, until you've been with someone for an entire year. Now, why did I come up with a year? I did it because anniversaries of things are extremely powerful for human beings. Look what we do with people's birthdays, okay? We make a big deal out of everybody's birthday. Mm-hmm. I hope we made one out of yours last year. I
thought the party was still going on.
But anniversaries are extremely important because there are all the old jokes about the husband who forgets the wedding anniversary. But what can happen is these are called anniversary reactions. And on the anniversary that something major that happens in your life, you can respond to it even if you're not aware of it. Mm-hmm. And I know we're always talking about...
And a lot of time people aren't aware
of it. And so this is just a little series of clues to help you realize what may be going on here. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like you or a loved one is having an especially difficult day or a difficult time and feeling depressed or anxious and unable to figure out why, ask yourself if it's an anniversary of a significant event that you're just not consciously thinking of right now.
And there are many of them.
Oh yes, more than you'll imagine.
We're going to give some of those examples.
Yes, we are. And making it conscious is the first step towards dealing with it.
Okay, so what we're trying to say, if you're really not getting it, is that many people, probably most people,
right,
are affected by things from their past
right,
at a certain point during the year.
Yep.
And we're going to give some examples how it would come back and affect how they're in the present with you and cause problems in your relationship.
But I'm also going to guess that it comes somewhere from our evolution and needing to be aware of various times of year when the crops grow or the river overflows or any of those things. Mm. That something in our psyche makes us respond to anniversaries. So I have a great line, I think, about them. It's not taught in schools anymore, which I have found from supervising interns for many years. And they're always very excited to learn it because they've already seen it happen. Mm-hmm. And if you look up anniversary reactions on the computer, you'll find more information than you probably ever wanted. But here's an anniversary definition I liked. Anniversary reactions are the annual echo of a trauma or loss. Okay? If you have lost your parents or you have some significant losses in your life, I can assure you that you're going to respond to the anniversaries of those deaths. Better if you're consciously aware of it than if you're not and you just don't have any idea why you're anxious or angry or out of sorts, you know,
Sure.
for a week or so every March, say. Anniversaries mostly of deaths and traumas, or any nightmarish experience, an assault, a robbery, a near-fatal accident, or a military combat experience.
Yep.
In fact, there were some people who would like to add an anniversary reaction to the diagnostic criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. In other words, people would like to note in the diagnosis that this is a prominent feature, that if you were in some horrible battle in any war that's ever been, that probably on the anniversary of that battle, you're going to have a response to the anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Better that you're aware of it than if you're not. And I'll tell you about a lady I trained.
Margaret, you have one of those, right?
One of what?
An anniversary reaction
To what?
from 1776?
Yes, I do. I was very upset in the Revolutionary War, and I knew he couldn't get by this without telling me I was in one of the ancient wars. But
I went older.
Yeah, right? The Crimean War was my favorite.
The things that pops out of this woman's mouth.
Yeah.
The Crimean War?
The Crimean War, but you never heard of it, see?
No,
But it was a really long time ago.
You probably remember. You probably started the war.
I had a very elderly nun when I was in college who taught ancient history. The woman was hilarious. She could have done stand-up comedy. And she looked at us perfectly deadpan about the Battle of Marathon in ancient Greece. And she said, and I know what I'm talking about because I was there. And she did it so seriously, it took us, several minutes to really realize what she had said. Okay, this lady was referred to me by a couple of therapists who didn't know what to make of her. First they thought she was bipolar, and then they didn't know what she had because she didn't seem to fit all the criteria for bipolar. Mm-hmm. So I just saw her a few times and listened to what I was told. And what I found out, that each of her parents had remarried. Okay? And that attached to all of these remarriages were spouses that her parents were with a second time, a second round of spouses. And she had been very attached to all of the second spouses. And this was an older woman, so by now all of them had passed. And it occurred to her, I made her get a calendar, and we did the anniversary of their deaths on the calendar. And that is exactly what the problem was. She had had so many losses in her family that she would, and with every loss that comes up, we grieve a little bit more, and it helps us finish resolving the grief process. So she was re-grieving everybody else every year, but didn't know what was happening to her. And of course the first year it came and she was aware of what happened, it was 100 times easier. So she could have been given medication that she didn't need if we hadn't, again, taken our time to find out what was really going on.
Yep.
All right, now this is a little convoluted, but I want to share the story. I know a woman who is extremely elderly, even more elderly than I. I know that's hard for Craig to believe, but she...
Is her name Yoda?
Yes, probably. She and her mother worked as domestics. They worked in the house for a man who had survived the sinking of the Titanic, believe it or not. And
Wow.
this I heard from word of mouth. And he managed...
Didn't that go down in the 20s?
Yes. I think it was 1919, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And the only way a man got off of the Titanic, because it was the women and the children first for the lifeboats, was to dress as a woman or a child. So we don't know how this guy got off, but in any case he did. He got off the Titanic and he survived. But every year on the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, he would go into a trance state, have no idea what was going on around him, be absolutely back at the sinking of the Titanic.
Wow.
And appeared to be running from deck to deck. Okay?
Wow.
And like I say, this is a word-of-mouth story, but it makes perfect sense to me. If the man had been running from deck to deck, trying to escape with his life, reenacting it would be a very understandable reaction. Okay? But anniversary reactions can be extremely powerful.
Absolutely. So if you've only been dating somebody for 6-9 months, you're not going to see these things come out. If your parents got divorced at a certain time, maybe you didn't graduate and you were supposed to graduate, and then all of a sudden you didn't get your diploma, and some big traumatic event or a car accident.
Sure, anything huge like that.
Yeah, I can say
huge.
My mom passed away, and around her death, it always affects me on this deep level that you can't really put into words. You just feel it.
That's exactly right. And I think that's where most of us really become aware of it, is around the death of parents. It's always a significant issue, whether or not we remember it consciously.
And if you have a lot of unresolved issues, or your partner has a lot of unresolved issues with their parents, a lot of anger, hostility, blame, depression,
all kinds of stuff.
Anxiety will come up, and you're not going to understand what's going on with them. And they're not going to understand what's going on with them.
So don't hesitate to ask people. It's like anything else. There's nothing you can't talk about. You seem to be having a terrible time for the second fall in a row. Mm-hmm. Has anything ever happened to you in like October or anything like that? Mm-hmm. And then most people will think about it for a minute and say, oh my God. I've asked clients who seem to be out of sorts. I can think of a woman I worked with who was married to a man who enjoyed summer. He had a wonderful summer every summer, and they had a house near the beach so that they could enjoy it every summer. However, when it came to be fall, he went into a depression until spring came again. I don't think she ever found out why, nor was he going to tell her. So I think she said goodbye to him eventually. But this was ruining half of this man's life, and he couldn't come to terms with it, you know. Yeah. And I always have to tell the story about the lady who I made a home visit to one day. I hadn't been in the field very long. And she was a kind of a tough lady, and she lived in a tough area, and she had a tough outlook toward life. And I'm going to use a bad word, so brace yourselves. And I finally said to her, I said, you know, you've had a rough life, I understand that. Do you have any particular anniversaries at any particular months of the year? And she said, honey, my whole fucking life's an anniversary. And I'll leave it there.
Well, everybody probably just...
What, like that?
Yeah, I think you
I think I had to say it to fully give you the picture.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you got to understand that a lot of anniversaries are going to come up that nobody's going to think to tell you about when you're dating them.
No.
And sometimes it can cause somebody to really fall apart, especially I found with the loss of a parent.
Yes.
I find that's to be a really big one. Like if you have a lot of unresolved issues with your parent and then they die, then you're a mess in your relationship, and I see a lot of breakups surrounding it.
Absolutely. I also knew a woman who had been dating. It was both of them for the second time, and they were very excited about the relationship, and they'd gone together for about 9 months, and they were starting to talk marriage. And it came to the anniversary of his divorce, and he totally fell apart. And she had to think better of marrying him. So I say, please know people for a full year so that you've been through all their anniversaries. Some people get crazy over the holidays. Up north, much more than down here in Florida, there's something called seasonal affective disorder. There are some people who get depressed when there isn't as much light in the winter, although I think we can treat that now. But please know somebody for their whole yearly round of anniversaries.
Absolutely. And, you know, just to toss it out there, but there's one day of year that you know seems to get the best of everybody. Mother's Day.
Oh, if I could shoot a holiday off of the calendar, it would be Mother's Day. And the reason for that is I've been a therapist for, 30-odd years. And Mother's Day is the hardest day on earth for many of the people in this world. Mm-hmm. If you had an extremely conflicted relationship with your mother, if you have bad memories, if you have an abuse history, I can think, and I know what Craig is thinking about because we've worked together, that I have had some months of May that go into June and July when my whole caseload would be pretty much in an uproar over Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. So all those things are worth thinking about.
Yeah, and there are certainly other reasons why you should take your time and not rush into a relationship. Right. But today we really wanted to focus on things that you probably hadn't heard before. And anniversary reactions is a big one.
It's a big one, yeah. It can save you it's a simple thing, and it can save you an awful lot of grief.
And you're certainly not going to hear, anybody else discussing this stuff. It's because Margaret and I look at the really deep things that most people don't consider. And we got to give you the heads up.
I mean, I didn't tell you that I become homicidal in July?
You didn't. So Margaret won't be here for July. We'll see you in August.
Okay.
So think about anniversary reactions, and you know what you could do is you could think about maybe yourself, and maybe if there are different times of years for yourself where you've struggled, or look at your ex and say,
sure,
we were together for 5 years, and every Thanksgiving he would really change.
Those are the things to look at. Yes.
And we broke up on Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So those things happen all the time.
I hope it's useful.
Hopefully that will help you, give you a little bit more perspective and thoughts on why you want to take your time in getting to know somebody. So, if you want to get our help personally, just go to my website, askcraig.net. Sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching. I do Skype coaching. If you got to get with me right away, I do offer emergency Skype coaching. Margaret is also available.
Please feel free to sign up with me if you think I can be helpful.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to sign up with her. Remember to subscribe to the channel and to add me on Twitter. We have some fun on there, and I post different things that I can't normally share in the videos. And you just go to search Ask Craig Kenneth on Twitter and add me there. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And we will talk with you soon.